Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how
He's alive!
Welcome to where the weird ones are.
Every time I speak, I want the truth to come out.
Powerful figures in Hollywood as well as powerful politicians who are in fact not human. They're reptiles or they're lizards or perhaps extraterrestrials.
I don't think it is a human. I think it's a Sasquatch.
Go ahead and run! Run home and cry to mama!
Let's get weird.
What's up, you fucking weirdos? Welcome to another episode of Where the Weird Ones Are. My name is Kevin, but you probably already knew that, and if you didn't, now you do. Today's episode is with Alex Shae. She is a photographer, and she is an amazing human being. She has, Bigfoot encounters, Men in Black encounters. She's has some evidence of flying winged creatures. There's a cult in the quarry out off of. We talked about so much today in this episode. Um, it's hard to put it into words. The amazing conversation that I had with Alex. She's an amazing person. And if you're on Instagram, you should definitely check out her Instagram. It's Ashae __ photography. She does amazing photography work. I think you should definitely check it out. But she frequents a trail with her son, and she's had numerous interesting encounters. So and there's also a school that preps kids for a cult out there that she talks about. Obviously she doesn't know firsthand, but it's just being a conspiratorial podcast. We dive into stuff like that, and the the it definitely seems like a freaking cult to me. So Um, but yeah, no, she is an amazing person. I absolutely loved this conversation. I could have talked to her freaking all night. Like this could have been easily been like a 5-hour podcast. Obviously, we don't want to friggin' do a 5-hour podcast. So she is coming back for a part two. We're gonna discuss more of this stuff as well as anything that's new that has developed. Which we'll see. But I know there's a lot to cover with her, and again, she's an amazing person. I absolutely adore her. She's such a sweetheart. It's a super bright light, warm person. Um, I like those kinds of people. I gravitate to those kinds of people, and she's one of those kinds of people. So, but anywho, if you wanna flavor up your motherfucking food, everybody, I promise you, you're not gonna regret if you buy yourself some Bigfoot's breath, some raw garlic dust from Flavors of the Forest. So, where you can get that shit, where you can get this shit is flavorsforest.com/weird. There, my friends, you can get this shit. You can get the ginger, you can get the lion's mane, and you can get the spicy garlic. So, if you want to treat your taste buds, I highly recommend it. If you like bland fucking shit that you get from the grocery store, then so be it. You're a bland person, I guess. Um, But no, it's really good. It's good shit. They freeze dry it. It's very potent, and you get the flavors. Oh my god, you get the flavors. Um, so go check them out. Um, they're good people. The product is amazing. You can also follow them on Instagram, Flavors Forest. So, with that being said, I hope you go check it out. Again, flavorsforest.com/weird. So, also Cryptid Fest coming up September 14th in Raynham, Massachusetts, 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. I hope to see everybody there. I will be speaking and I will be vending. And then West Virginia, I'll be in October. I'll have more details on that as it gets closer. And then CryptidCon, I will be at, but I won't be vending or anything. I will just be there hanging out, checking out the speakers, checking out all the vendors and stuff. So, I do have a new hot sauce. I'm looking for somebody to help. I'm looking for a graphic designer to help me with a comic book. I think I might have found one. I haven't worked with her as of yet, but we have been talking. She was a guest on the show, and she's a good friend. Um, I just didn't realize that she was a graphic designer. So we'll see what happens with that. But, comic book wise, I would rather not she has her own podcast. She has a bunch of shit that she's doing. I would rather not overload her plate um, with stuff for me. So a comic book obviously going to take a lot of work. So if there is anybody that is into comic books that can illustrate them for me. I got the storyline and everything. Just let me know. Hit me up at where the weird ones are at gmail.com. So, anywho, if you like today's show, you like any of my other shows, if you like the podcast in general, please please like, follow, share, subscribe, leave a rating and review. I really dig ratings and reviews. I read the reviews on here. I think Apple's the only one that allows them, but you can also leave a review on the website where the weird ones are podcast.com. Right in the contact on the contact page, you can, put the stars up and leave a review. Um, there also you can get the hot sauce and the merch, get a t-shirt or a hat or something silly, coffee mug of some kind. And yeah, I think that about covers that aspect. If you're interested in supporting the show other than, buying hot sauce or buying merch or leaving a rating in a review, I highly recommend the Patreon. It's only $5 a month, and you get extra segments like Conspiracy Tuesdays, which actually Conspiracy Tuesdays I might be bringing back to the main channel and doing something else with that, which I am gonna call Let's Dive In. So just like a dive on a certain topic. And but obviously story time will still be Patreon. The Let's Dive In will be exclusively Patreon, so I'm not gonna do previews or anything. It's just gonna be in in there on the Patreon. Storytime, you'll get a preview of Storytime because I do bring guests on Storytime. So um again, that's just a thought. I'm pretty set that that's probably something that I'm gonna do. But right now it's in the brainstorming part right now. So um anywho, you should definitely check out Cryptid Warfare podcast. Amazing podcast. Drew does amazing shit. Check out his artwork too. He does spray paint art, which is fucking pretty great. So go check out Drew's tags, which is also on Instagram. And what else? What else? If you're interested in being featured on the show, you have stories to tell, you want to talk about your encounters, we can also do it anonymously where it's not on the YouTube so people don't see your face and they don't need to know your name. So it can be audio only if that's what you would prefer. But either way, if you would like to be on the show, it's where the weird ones are at gmail.com, or you can reach out to me on Instagram where _ the weird ones are, or on Facebook. Facebook works too. So um that about covers everything, I believe. So check out Alex on her Instagram. Amazing photography. She's an amazing person. Again, a warm personality, somebody that I could definitely see connecting with on a deeper level, like friendship level kind of a person. So um I don't think I've stopped talking to her since I've had her on. She's great. She's great. So again, I hope you enjoy today's show. I really enjoyed it. I think Alex enjoyed it. Maybe. She said she did. She could be lying. I don't know. I'm just fucking with you. All right, guys. That's all I got. So why don't we get into this with Alex? She's got some fucking interesting stories, so be prepared. If you haven't heard her on any of the other podcasts, because she's been on some pretty big name podcasts. So yeah, yeah, yeah. I should stop recording this intro now so you can actually listen to her stories. Or should I just stare at you a little bit longer? Or should I leave it silent for the audio listeners and then be like, what the fuck's happening? What's going on? You tell me. It's your show.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Weird. Get weird.
Hello, we are Rachel and Heather, the hosts of Like Mother Like Murder podcast.
And you're listening to Kevin on Where the Weird Ones Are.
Oh.
Oh fuck, it's already recording. I forget that this doesn't count me down like Riverside all the time. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode. So happy to have you here. I have Alex Shae with me tonight, and we're going to talk about some weird shit she's experienced. Winged creatures, turkey named Jerry, and some Bigfoot out in the woods, and a weird guy. So, Alex, thank you for being here. I appreciate you so much for doing this. You know, time is our greatest currency. So the fact that you're here with me means the world to me. So, thank you.
No, thank you, Kevin, so much. I'm so excited about this. Like, I've been pumped to do this podcast with you.
Me too. Me too. If you don't mind, if you have anything that you want to plug, anything like your photography, I know you do that and stuff like that. If you want to throw that out there for people to go check out, follow, whatever you want, however you want to do it, you're more than welcome to do so.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I have social media wise, which I should probably have more, but I only use Instagram, and I've been doing that for a long time now. Like my photography, that's my portfolio. And since I've built that portfolio for so long, I started posting reels of all the documentaries that I watched during the week at work. And that has grown my following more than any of my pictures ever have. Like I had about probably like 4,000 followers about, I want to say like 6 months ago. And then I had this super viral, it was this clip of Tim Burchett talking about how the only way that they were going to get any of this stuff out is if someone like snuck out of the, like a lab with like this top secret information. And so I made this meme, and he talks about how the only way that we could do this if someone did that, but that they would have to like unalive themselves by doing that in the back of the head 5 times. And so I said, when you work for the government, but you know how the government works, and I got about, I think it's up to 9 million views right now, but it just went insane and like started a whole life of its own. And I think I have, I don't know, like the comment section, I just can't even keep up with it. Like there's people living complete lives inside my comment section on one meme that I have, which is just crazy because like the power of a meme, like I was trying to be funny, but at the same time, it just like, it exploded. So, but I try to post any type of part of a documentary that I think someone should watch. Like that's, sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's serious, but it'll just be a little clip, and then it'll make people, you know, more intrigued about opening their mind to, like you said, all the weird shit that's out there. So my photography is really cool, but I encourage people to go and just like watch my reels. There's a lot of people that I say they get upset. They don't like my reels. Instagram has not liked them very much. I was shadow banned for a while. There was a person who actually made a video on YouTube. They're from Australia, but they were like, they noticed that it was happening to a lot of people that were sharing things that Instagram considered their guidelines didn't like, they didn't like. So yeah, if you want to follow me, it's ASHAE_photography. So it should read Shae photography with an underscore in between. So
Nice. Everybody go check that out if you're into photography. I've seen a lot of the because I follow you, so I kind of like went through some of your pictures and stuff, and you do amazing work with like a lot of it's like Halloween themed, right? Like I know that one was like of a Jason, somebody dressed up
yeah,
as
that's my
Jason.
son.
That was oh, is it? Because it does
Yeah.
not look like a child. It looked really good.
That was the point of us doing that, was to, because he was about, I want to say he was about 7 or 8, but he beat the Friday the 13th game when he was like 6. Like he's loved horror stuff since he was a kid, but that's like one of his favorite. Yeah, he also beat Far Cry 4 the same, or yeah, Far Cry 4 the same year. He was so proud of himself, but that was like his favorite thing. So he wanted to be in for Halloween. So we had a cornfield near our house where we lived, and I was like, dude, let's just, I was going to hair school at the time, and I had this mannequin head, and I was like, let's put some like FX blood on it and take it out to the cornfield, dude, and just take some pictures. So he loved, like, those pictures. He's gonna cherish those forever, because like Jason's his favorite. He will argue with anybody to the end of the day that Jason is number 1. So in case
That
anyone's
is awesome. That's awesome.
yeah, I love that. What I really do is I haven't, and I don't know if I ever will, because people are like, you can make so much money off your photography, but I enjoy like taking people on like an experience, and like people who have trauma, like, and just like working through their trauma and like making art. And that's like really what I've done. Like the guy in the pictures from the prison, he actually did go to prison, and he kept his jumpsuit, and he got invited by me to go to this place. I didn't tell him it was going to get weird and creepy, but you know, he wanted to go back because he was like, I can go back and I can have this experience of walking in there and walking back out, and like trying to like process it and take pictures. And he ended up getting a lot deeper than he thought he would. And he said that it really changed his life to like, he's like, it was eye-opening to just shoot with you, because you like, you're really trying to tell a story. You're not just, you know, just taking pictures. Like, that's kind of what I do. I like to tell a story with pictures, and it makes people have different emotions, feel different emotions. One picture might make someone, you know, happy. Another, you know, it might make another person sad. You know, it's just how they perceive, how I've, you know, shown them just like at one moment in time.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, like I was telling you before we started recording, I mean, mental health is super important, and I like to touch on that a lot with the show, just because the experiences that we have with all this stuff is can make us think that we're fucking crazy, like we should belong in a mental asylum or some shit. And it's the fact that you sit down and you're telling people these stories that make you feel like you're crazy talking to other people, and you're opening up about this stuff. I feel like that is such an amazing relief for yourself, for your mental clarity. um you know was it a hallucination? Probably not. Like, whatever you saw could have been, but like, I was talking to Aaron Deese from Small Town Monsters a couple weeks ago. His episode just came out this past Friday, and he's like, I can't tell you what you saw was what you saw or anything, but your feelings and your emotions during that time was what you felt. Like, you felt those emotions. You went through that. So regardless of what the situation was or what your story is, the emotions that you attach to it were very much real. So, um, yes, that's cool. Like, to be able for that guy to go into that prison, and you to help him through that, and he got more out of it than he anticipated. So that's pretty dope. That's pretty
Yeah,
dope.
that was a really cool experience. We had a lot of fun there. We went for pictures and like a ghost experience, but we've been there twice. You can rent it out. It's not an active prison. It's the one that was originally built, and then
Hmm.
it's no longer. It was close to the river, so a lot of the buildings have like decayed and are non like usable. Like, we couldn't go to all the different cells, but certain cell blocks we could go in. So it was neat. We got to learn a lot of history about the
That's
place,
cool.
and it's called the bloodiest. I think it's the bloodiest 47 acres in America is what it's called. That's what they're
Oh,
known.
really?
Yeah, it's pretty.
Oh,
They
wow.
got a lot of history out there, and it's the gas chamber that they had. They have this picture on the wall in the gas chamber where it has all the people that have ever been killed, and it's rows of people that were killed in that gas chamber, and you get to go in there. Like that guy that I told you, we had him
Yeah.
chained to his arms and his ankles and his neck, and he was sitting in that specific spot. There's two chairs, and there was actually a couple. The only female that was ever put in the gas chamber. Her and her partner like kidnapped this kid, and something about they held him for ransom, but it ended up going really bad. But she was the only female, and they actually got killed gas chamber together in the two chairs that were in there, which is just crazy. Yeah. And I have actually a
Damn.
picture. It's weird, but the girl that came with us, she was in a Silent Hill costume. Like, she did special effects makeup and stuff like that, and she was in that type of costume, and he was in this kind of like grungy garagey, I don't even know, it was like a jumpsuit type thing, but it kind of looked like a prison jumpsuit. But he and her are sitting outside of the gas chamber, and I took this picture of them because she had a headache. Like, her head was just like pounding, pounding, pounding. But we didn't know, but I think she was feeling like that couple's energy, because the picture I took of them looks identical to the couple. Like, if you took that picture and then you took the picture of those two and you set it next to each other, it was almost like they knew they were coming, and they were like, I don't know, just like living through them almost in a way, because she was covered in blood from her costume, and I didn't know, but it was the lady that actually took the kid's life. And it was this whole thing. But I find all this stuff out afterwards, and then we also found out that there's this huge government parking lot up on this hill, and all these people had died from disease, and they had these tunnels underneath the prison, and they took all these bodies through the tunnel, and they buried them in a huge unmarked grave, and then put a government parking lot on top of it. So there's just like this huge unmarked grave out there with, like, I don't know, I want to say hundreds of bodies, but it was some type of disease
Damn.
that went through. And so there was this energy, and everybody was just feeling it. Like, our heads were just pounding because it was just like so much. But we had a great time, and then so much so that we're like, okay, we got to do another round. We got to go back. So I recommend it for anybody who wants to go. You can just do ghost tours, but if you want, you can pay $80 per person, and you can rent out the place. You get a prison guard, and some like a warden. It'll be like 2 or 3 people, but they take you around and they show you the cell blocks, and you get to kind of run free. They said we were the craziest people that ever been there because we brought like straight jackets and like old wheelchairs and like hatchets, and they're like, you guys are crazy. Like, we're here for a good time, buddy. Okay.
Yeah.
That was
That's
fun.
awesome. That's awesome. I've wanted to do like a ghost tour or a ghost investigation in a old prison, but who knows? We'll see one day. I went to the Conjuring house. That wasn't as spectacular as, it people make it seem. I mean, there's something there, obviously. There's spirits there, just not as fantastical as, you would think.
Yeah.
And whatever was haunting the parents, definitely not there anymore. Whatever negativity was there, it's not there anymore. So,
Do you
um,
know? I don't know what documentary it's called, but I've watched it and I'm pretty sure it's on Tubi. But that lady, one of the daughters who lived there,
yeah.
she talks about her experiences, and she actually said that she started having UFO experiences, and that she saw like motherships, like huge, like flying over that property, and that after she had those experiences and stuff like that, she said that's kind of when, not necessarily that it like stopped for her, but like that she felt like they were connected, like that the ghosts and the
Yeah.
UFO, like she thought they were kind of the same, one and the same almost.
Yeah, I
I
think
didn't
I
know that
think
part of the story.
yeah,
So
I mean, I think ghosts, aliens, fucking cryptids, I think they're all the same thing. I think they all live on a separate realm, freaking dimension, whatever the fuck you want to call it. I think they're all in there, and just once in a while they come through. I don't think aliens are coming from outer space. I think they're coming through portals. You know what I mean? Like, I don't
yeah,
think there's other galaxies and shit like that. I mean, that's just my opinion. This is Kevin speaking.
right.
So like, I'm not speaking for Alex, but this is just what I think. I don't think
Yeah.
aliens are coming from outer space. I think they're coming through portals. And same with Bigfoot. Same with Dogman. Same with ghosts. When we see a ghost, I think they're coming through some kind of lifting of a veil of some kind. You know what I mean? And our realms are just clashing at that particular point in time. And where there's a lot of trauma or whatever there happens to be, whatever it is, they kind of like attach themselves, or maybe they just don't want to move on, and they're kind of just like they're living their life, like the movie The Others with Nicole
I know, I
Kidman.
love that movie. I made my
Yeah,
son watch that, and he was like, "Dude, that was so odd." He at first he was like, "This is slow," and then I forgot how religious, like it was really religious, and I
yeah.
didn't real I forgot about that part of the movie. But once the end, came, he was like, "Dude, I love that, Mom." I was like, "I know, and that's so
Mm,
cool."
mm. It's just the twist there. You're just like, oh, no shit. Like, I mean, you kind of like I felt like after I found out, there was so many signs that were like, wait a second, I should have known that when this happened, or when like when she went outside and everything was foggy and she couldn't get anywhere, then all of a
Yeah,
sudden she found her husband or whatever. I was just like, what the hell? This is
yeah.
weird.
What a coincidence!
Hi, I'm Natasha with Cryptids, Creeps, and Conspiracy. Embark with me on a journey to uncover the details involving cryptids, haunted houses, and unsolved mysteries. Get ready to awaken your curiosity and explore the unknown. Ask questions, and together, let's unravel the secrets behind the legends.
Yeah,
Weird.
what a coincidence!
Yeah.
I was actually talking about portals in a way with Oren and Shane, and I was telling them that whenever I heard the creaking metal door sound
Uh-huh.
in the woods, and then we heard the monkey sounds, I told them, I said, this is just like a thought, and I just come up with any thoughts that I can, like just thinking like how could that have been, but they were talking about like, why would it open, like why, because it kept doing it. It wasn't like it was just like a one-time thing. It did it a couple
Yeah.
times, and like I said, the monkey sound kept going. But I told him, I said, what if like myself and my 4 kids and like our like just like our vibrational being, like what if that like caused it to open? or like helped with, you know, like I feel like people when they have those moments, like how what is it not us that's like causing this to happen, like because we're bringing energy into the area, or like because we're open, because I am very open to this stuff. So
Yeah.
the turkey, me and my son swore like the first time that turkey Jerry was like way bigger when we first saw it, but it was super far away, so it was like hard to explain, but it was just weird, and his back was towards us, and we almost kind of like didn't even want to get close. We were like a little nervous, but we'd not really seen any wildlife out there, so I was like, what if it's like a crazy raccoon and it's going to come and attack us or something, you know? We just like didn't know, and I have really bad eyes, so from far away I was like, I don't know what that is, but I'm not about to have something attack me on this trail. But once we got closer, you know, it was a turkey, and we just like had this like weird bond with them. But anytime it seems like that we have an experience, there's we at least see Jerry, or we see him and his family. Like it's like turkey, or white-tailed deer. That's happened twice. Like one time we went to the park, my son, he's like, you have to share this story because it just with the whole like collective consciousness. But one time we went, this was before we ever saw Jerry, because we kept saying, why don't we ever see wildlife? Like it doesn't make sense. Like this place should have wildlife. It says they do. And we're driving into the park, and my son's like, man, I just wish that we could like see some deer. Like that would just be so cool. And I'm like, yeah, you know, it would be cool if we saw some deer. Like that would be awesome. Well, we go on the trail, we walk the whole trail, and we're leaving, and my son's like, man, that really sucked. I didn't get to, you know, we didn't get to see that. And I'm like, yeah, maybe next time, buddy, you know? And like right as soon as we're about to drive out of the park, it's like this family of like 5 deer just walk right across in front of us. And my son was like, what? And I was like, dude, look, you asked for that, and look what you got. Like, didn't happen while we were on the trail. It didn't happen before we got to the trail. It happened right before we left. Like you got what you asked for. It was just cool. And he thought about that. He's like, you know, with all this weird stuff that's happening, he was like, seems like we've been asking for nature to like interact with us more, and it is. And whether it looks like it's nature or something we don't know, it's definitely interacting with us. So
For sure. The power of manifestation. Believe hard enough and ask for it, and it will come true.
Sometimes it's not
You
how
know,
you want it, but it will
yeah,
give it to
yeah,
you.
yeah, and it's not gonna be instant either. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's years from the day that you say it. But you know, you know, it's a weird theme. The past couple of episodes now have been like manifestation, like, oh, I asked for this and it's happened. That does your son seem to have like some kind of like abilities, like
Yeah,
medium, psychic, or
I
something like
think
that?
so.
Yeah.
I think I do as well. I don't claim to be a medium or anything like that, but I'm definitely an empath. And I know certain things, and sometimes I'll just have people, I don't want to say people, but like people who have crossed over will like, I've had to tell them to like stop a lot of the times, but like they want me to give a message to somebody, and I don't, if it's somebody I don't know, I don't like doing that, because
Yeah.
people even that I do know not that they get weirded out about it, but I had to be very careful who I open myself up to with that, because sometimes when once I do give a message, then it seems like it's a gateway for everybody else, and then everybody else is like, oh, well, she's okay with giving messages, so here you go. And I'm like, no, I have to tune those out because it's really hard. But for my son, it's like ghosts more, and I don't want to say go, but whatever it is, it likes to bother him when I'm gone. It usually sometimes it likes to pin us against each other, move things. He gets very upset with that, because like it'll be things that I'll know was for sure in a certain place, and I'll know he didn't touch it, but it like tries to sometimes like put us against each other. So I just like support him with it. Like, I know you've listened to a few of the podcasts, so you know, the second time that we saw Jerry, and then we heard the creaking door sounds, and then we heard the monkey sounds. When we were leaving, that's when my son was telling me, he's like, I don't even know what is happening. He said, it's like they're implanting thoughts in my head. He said, they're not my thoughts, but someone's like telling me. And I'm like, well, what are they telling you? And he was like, well, they said that they like you and they're glad that you came out, Alex. And my daughter, who was like 8, she looked at me and she goes, they know your name? And I was like, well, I mean, I guess if we say it out here and they listen or whatever. I've heard just from like all the research that I've done, like one lady said that like certain Sasquatch will like name their children after our names that we have, like not always, but
Really?
like they have their own language. But I've heard that each like region of where they live will take some slang or words from people in their community and they will use those words, but like for the most part they have their own language. And that's why a lot of times people who do have mind speak stuff, like Xavier said, why is it when they try to mind speak with you that you can't understand them, but they talk to me in my language? And I'm like, well, I don't know, because I don't know. I don't want to say that they've like tried talking to me, but they've definitely told me to leave. They've like asked me like, this isn't a good time. Like you should probably leave this area, but I can't understand the words that they're saying. Like I was telling Shane and Oren last week, like I thought someone had whispered in my ear when we were at the creek, but now I'm looking back on it and I think maybe that it was just like a mind speak that they were trying to do. But I think they were telling us like, please leave. Because soon after, that's when we had like the sighting or whatever, which we think was Bigfoot. And then the 5 turkey, like right before, that's when we found Jerry's family and we were like freaking out. But it's just, there's a lot of things that's why I think he loves going out in nature. Like he wants to be a park ranger. Like he loves being out in nature. He thinks like that's the best thing. Yeah, he's a super cool. He's 13. He's that's like his thing. He knows that technology is like ruining kids in his generation. And so like our big thing is going out together and like nature. But like I tell him like we have to be safe. Like there's a lot of stuff out there that we don't know about that we just have to like protect ourselves. And so like we have the rule of like you have to walk in front of me, not behind me. We really try our hardest not to be out there at dark, but like we had one time where we did. And like you said, with the manifestation thing, I think me just talking about Men in Black kind of really, really did manifest that experience. And that was terrifying. And then it got even worse when like I went to go research the park and then I found out that someone else had a very similar experience to me. Like that kind of tripped me out because I was like, dude, okay. Like I tried to rationalize it so many times. Like so many times I told myself like that wasn't a Men in Black. Like that wasn't a Fae or whatever everyone wants to call it. Like it was really hard for me to understand that like that thing or whatever that person was like really made us so uncomfortable. And then not only did like that happened to me, but it happened to somebody else, like an older gentleman who was too embarrassed to even tell his story to people until he found somebody that he felt comfortable with, like, you know, sharing his story with, because he said everybody else just like kind of laughed at him and didn't believe him and just thought he was kind of crazy. And, you know, until he found that lady. And I was like, wow. So I'm not the only one that's the only man that I found that has had a similar experience to me in the park. The park laughs at me. I told him about the monkey sounds and she like literally laughed at me and was like, we've never had monkey sounds in our park before. And I'm like, well, you do now, lady. Just so you know. Like my 8-year-old, like that's when you know, like when a kid can describe something, like they're very like to the point of how they describe things. And it's like when you a picture book and you're like, okay, that's a cat, that's a dog, that's a monkey. Okay, what does a cat say? What does a dog say? What does a monkey say? Like they knew instantly that there was a monkey in the bush. Like that's what it sounded like. I don't want to say that's what it was, but it sounded like a chimpanzee. Like it was just the weirdest. I don't even know how to describe it, but yeah, they still talk about that. They think it's funny because, you know, the whole Jerry thing. Like we love Jerry the turkey, and I think he is somehow involved with these Sasquatch or maybe even the winged creatures or the person. There's also a theory that maybe the winged creature and like that Fae or Men in Black guy could somewhat be connected in a way. And then I found like a weird footprint out there. We found all kinds of things at this park. Like it's just kind of endless.
Yeah.
And we can't stop going. Like we just keep going back, and I'm either looking up or looking down. Like it's all around basically, but it just keeps getting weirder. And like I said, there's black helicopters, unmarked black helicopters that fly over there. Like the last time it was flying over there, there was one lady in a Missouri conservation truck that was driving from one end of the park to the other end of the park. It was almost like they were just paying her to do that. Like we sat here and we had like we went on this trail and then we sat on this little bench where the main road is that goes through the park. And my son is like, why does that lady keep driving by? And I was like, well, I told you that helicopter was there. Maybe they're doing something. I don't know. And then another guy in a truck came by and they had these huge like loaders on this big, huge truck. And they made the person like stop so that those could leave. But this lady, I swear, it had to have been at least 10 times. She drove up and she wasn't doing anything, carrying anything, nothing. She would drive from one end of the park to the other end of the park, one end of the park to the other end of the park, while this black helicopter is just circling around at the end of this park. And my son's like, why is that helicopter flying over there? And I'm like, dude, I don't know, but they do it every once in a while. And Shane and Oren asked me if there was a military base close, and there is. It's the Whiteman Air Force Base. And if you're in the military, that's close because they can get here real quick. To people, it might take, I don't know how long it is. It's maybe 2 hours. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody in the comments, but I don't know how far away it is. But I know I think it's down 50 highway, but it's a little bit of a distance if you're driving. But if you're in a military vehicle, you could get to Burr Oak Woods, I'm sure, in a jiffy. So there is a military base close.
Yeah. It's interesting for like the national parks and stuff like that to have these like military helicopters patrolling them almost. It seems like the LBL, out in the LBL, they have Black Hawk helicopters flying underneath radar all the time.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Supposedly it's for like
That's what someone said,
supposedly
that it wouldn't be on the radar thing.
Yeah, right.
Like
Yeah,
if I
because
tried looking
there's
it
a
up, then it
certain
would be
height.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if they're low enough, they don't have to be on there.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah, they won't be read on radar, and they don't have to have flight logs.
That's crazy. I heard about when you're talking about the LBL and I think it was Small Town Monster. I'm not 100% sure if it was the Mothman one that's on YouTube that just came out, but that's the one that I just recently watched. And then they had another one that came out on Tubi, but I think it was about something else. But yeah, I recently heard about that, about how they're not on the radar. That blows my mind.
Yeah. Well, if you get the chance, it's what the frick? It's Dogman Territory, Werewolves of the Land
That's the one I
Between the
watched.
Lakes.
Yes, I watched that one, and then after I watched that one, then I watched the one that they just put on YouTube, which was the Mothman one that they did.
Yeah.
Which everybody's revisiting Mothman, which I think is amazing because I think that's kind of what my winged creature business is. But
yeah,
I love that. It just keeps coming back.
Yeah, it does. It does. It really does. So, so I got two questions.
Yes.
First question, do you ever go out with protection, like whether it's a gun or mace or knives or anything like that when you're out in the woods?
I'm going to tell you like 100%. One time I did take a knife out there, and that sounds really stupid, but I don't think that, and I'm not trying to say that like Sasquatch told me don't do that, but I don't think that they particularly like when people are carrying weapons, and they won't interact with people who carry that. If that I mean, they probably will to some extent, but I feel like I don't go out there with the intention of like hunting anything or whatnot. I'm like and at my park, it sounds weird, and I didn't even think Sasquatch could ever even be out here, but like this park is in such a like populated area. Like we're not in the middle of nowhere. I mean, the woods, it's big. It's like 1,075 acres, but it's just, we're surrounded by like a city. I would probably get more hurt by a human being than I would anything out there, like honestly.
Well, yeah, I mean that's why I'm asking, because that would be the only reason that I would have a weapon, is for other people.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that I can't like carry, like take somebody on or whatever. Usually we have a huge walking stick. Like that's my big thing. And I don't want to say that's not a weapon or it is a weapon, but like usually that's what I do. And that's what I had when that one guy did that Men in Black thing experience. Like I was so glad I did have a stick, because I mean, I don't know. It's just weird. Like I'm not a weapon person either. So I just don't like violence. So it's really hard for me to feel like I should do that. But I do know, like with missing 411, like they say like all the things that you should there's like a list of things that David says that you should like take with you if you go into the woods. Like, can't remember, there's like a GPS tracker type thing. I don't know if he said firearm, he probably did. But there's like a few things that he says that, you know, that you should take. And once I feel like I'm gonna like further my research, I don't go out alone very often. But if I ever did, I would definitely look into like getting those things. I know like Bo from the Bum podcast, my son was like, we should get that Sasquatch survival like gear stuff, like that backpack. Like that's his like main goal is to get that stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm sure I will definitely try, but like I said, we usually just go out on the trails and just like walk the trails. So yeah, I think everyone should be like, I don't ever go alone. That's like my big thing. And if I, like I said, if I do, it's not, I might even like walk to the creek, but that's still pushing it because I don't want to, for one, I don't want to get lost. We've gotten lost before, just me and my son. And that was scary enough. Like I was hyperventilating. I was like, this is how it happens. This is how it happens. I was like, and then everyone's like freaking out. And I was, and he's like, Mom, just sit down. It's going to be okay. And like we did, I was like eaten alive by mosquitoes, but I just was like, I had to sit down and collect myself. Like we had all the things we needed, but I was just like, dude, it could happen so quick. Like, it
really
bad.
could. It really could.
Yeah, like take somebody with you. And I always use my phone and like see where we're at and like pin like where we're at, because that got really scary. If like you don't know where you're at, it can be very easy to get lost, and it is not a good time. So yeah.
No, it's not. You see so many like hiking stories where the person is dead like 6 feet from a shelter or something like that because they didn't know where to go. So
it was like, I was glad my son was there because he like really helped me to like be calm about it, because when you're looking, you're just like, everything looks the same. And when you go off trail, there's not a trail, you know? So then we had to find a trail. And then when we did find a trail, we didn't even know where that trail, like my son was like, I've never seen this part of the park before. I was like, wow, we found a new spot. Like it was by accident, but like eventually we found where we needed to go. But it was, for a while, I was like, wow, okay, this is like legit. Like I get it now. And especially if you're like a little kid, like I can only imagine how terrifying that would be.
yeah, for sure. But also, since we've kind of danced around the story, if you don't mind telling the listeners the story with the weird guy in the woods.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That was weird. And then I'll tell you what the other guy said, his experience too, because I've kind of come to this thing where it could possibly, there's this thing like Ingrid Cole, the grinning man or whatever. That's kind of what I've been researching lately about because of this experience. But for anyone who doesn't know, me and my son go to this park called Borough Woods. It's our favorite park. I've been going there forever. Like I couldn't even tell you how long I've been going there, but I've been going there for a really long time. And I went there with his dad when me and his dad were younger, and now me and my son go together. And I take my other 3 kids with us. I have 4, but me and him like to go alone a lot. And that's like our thing. We just, after work and school, we just want to get out of the house and go on a nature walk. And we just talk. We talk about our day. We talk about anything that's we're interested in, what we've been doing. He knows that I research a lot. I do all my research solo. I just all week during work, I'm listening to podcasts and documentaries. And so I'm talking to him about all these things that I'm learning. And, you know, and he puts his insight on it. But our big thing is, what would Sasquatch do? So every time we're out in the woods, is what would Sasquatch do? Well, I would do this, but what would Sasquatch do? So that's like a big thing that we talk about. And so we're always on, like, feels like, I don't want to say I bring it up. I feel like he brings it up a lot more than I do sometimes, but he'll bring up the Sasquatch subject and he'll just say certain things. And that particular night, I had told him that it was going to get dark late, and I don't think it was daylight savings time yet. So that's why it got dark so quick. But I told him we could go, but like, we're not going on any side quests, because if we go on side quests, it's going to get dark. And I don't want to be out there when it's dark, because I've never been out there when it's dark, and I don't want to be out there when it's dark. And we ended up going, and we went on a couple of side quests. We go down the creek. Like, that's our favorite thing to do, is go to the creek. We take our shoes off. We play in the creek. There's just like old, just, I don't know, the old rocks that are there are just like so neat. And It's a limestone trail is what it's called. It's our favorite trail, but you can climb on these huge limestone rocks. There's all kinds of paths off the trail, so it's really easy to just like wander, and that's what we do. It's like with nothing that we can help really, it just happens. But by the close to the end of the trail we're going, and I realized that it's getting dark, and it just out of nowhere, it seemed like someone turned the lights off. Like it was that dark. Like you couldn't really see very far in front of you. And like I've said before, like when you're out in a spot where there's not any like light pollution, like there's no street lights, you're in the middle of the woods, so it's like completely pitch dark. Like you cannot see anything. And I'm trying to take pictures of this mushroom tree. There's like this tree with like all these mushrooms growing on it. And in the live video, because all my pictures I take are live, I went to go like push it, and you can hear my son going, okay, that's enough. We got to get out of here. Like, let's go. Like he's just like not happy. He's just like, it's too dark. We got to go. And so we keep walking down this trail, and I had just watched this documentary that Tony and Darcy made called The Men in Black. And it's like one of my favorite documentaries ever. And I'm telling my son all about it. I'm like, dude, this was like the coolest documentary. Like I've seen, you've seen Men in Black when I was little and he was little, but I was like, but this was like so cool to like see Dan Aykroyd like talk about his experience with Men in Black. Like I had no idea about that. I mean, I knew he was obviously into aliens with cone heads, but like it was just really cool to like see his story and like think, wow, like that's crazy. I never had an experience, and I've always had weird experiences, but I'm like, it's never anything for anyone to come and bother me about. Like, I thought for sure with the winged creatures, someone would be knocking on my door, but no one has come thus far. So all good there. But, so we're walking on the trail. We're talking about the Men in Black. Many people have mentioned this, but like the collective consciousness or just like us manifesting and us talking about it, like could have made this experience happen. But in this particular area of the park, there was a lot of death. There was a gentleman who owned the property a long time ago in the 1800s. He owned slaves. These people came to free his slaves. The gentleman was warned about it beforehand, was like ambushed, and a lot of people died. There's rumored to be gold out there. I think this man really loved his property, and I'm sure, took really good care of it when he did have it. So I don't know if it's this particular gentleman. We've talked about that before. Like if I had a bunch of gold out there and I was a ghost, like, wouldn't I want to scare people like away from the property? Like that's what a ghost does in a house. Like why wouldn't, what's to say that, it only does it inside the walls? Like it could do it outside the walls. I've thought of so many different theories about what this thing could be. But so anyway, so we're walking, we're talking about the Men in Black, and we're almost to the end of this trail. We're going down this like slope, this little bit of a hill, and I'm looking down, and to what it like if I'm playing in my head, what it looked like was this man like manifested, like kind of like Venom, like just manifested out of the ground, and then it's this like black silhouette. And it scared me really bad at first because I wasn't expecting anyone to come on the trail. It was dark. The park was closing, then they closed the gates. And like you can't get in or out with your vehicle. And so I just thought it was weird that this person was walking on the trail so late. And the first thing I said was, oh my God, thank God you're not Sasquatch. And my son was like, why did you say that? And I'm like, well, because I'm just kind of glad it wasn't, but and then I was thinking, well, wow, maybe I do wish it was Sasquatch, because who the hell is out here in the middle of the, like right as soon as the park's about to close? Like, and it's a really long trail. And like I've told people before, if you're just walking it, maybe 45 minutes, maybe an hour. Usually we're like an hour or over an hour because we go on side quests. But to walk the whole thing, it's really long. It's not a short trail where this guy could have just popped on and popped right off. Like he was going on the trail for a reason. I don't know why. But so anyways, he goes to walk past us. And I already have a weird feeling because I'm like, why are you going to the park right before it's about to close? So I do my best to like look at him. Like I told somebody, I side-eyed this guy so hard because I was just like, what in the world? It was just the strangest thing. And as he's walking by us, I noticed that he's in all black. He has a black t-shirt and he has black pants, and they're really tight, like almost like athletic, like wear or whatever. And I thought he had a headphone in, but I couldn't really tell. He was bald. He had no hair, no Caucasian. he was average height, like average build, and he didn't. The first thing I noticed is he didn't say hi or he didn't nod. He didn't do any of that. And he probably felt that I was like eyeing him because I just thought it was weird to begin with. But he walks by and my son said, well, that's weird. He didn't say anything. And I said, well, I think he had a headphone in. Maybe that's why. And maybe he just doesn't want to talk. And that's fine. That can happen, you know? And my son just gets this like just weird feeling that he just doesn't like the interaction that he just, or lack of interaction that he had with that person. And so he turns around. I'm still walking forward and he turns around and he's walking, but he's looking back and he said, oh my God, Mom. And I said, what? And he goes, he's walking towards us. And I was like, wait, what? And like in my head, I'm just like, I was already freaked out that he was on the trail. And then I was like, why is he walking towards us? And I got really, really nervous. And as in that moment that I'm like, why is he walking towards us? My, my son's already freaked out. The gentleman like does this weird, like, and like throws himself at us. And I don't know how to describe it, but it was almost like, it sounded like, I don't know even how to describe it, tribal-ish, but he just, I could feel it. I could feel how he like lunged at us, and he did. He lunged at us and he made the sound, and I could like feel it. Like I could just like feel it like this. And I was like, dude, no. And my son said, fuck this. And he starts running down the trail. Like he just starts booking it. He left me, like just left me. And I was like, oh my God, just don't let this person know that they freaked you out. Don't let them see you. Basically, don't let them see you sweat. Just keep going. I had this huge walking stick. And I said, okay, if this person does try to attack me, like at least I could try to fight them. And because obviously my son left me, but he had every reason to. I was terrified, so I get it. But we get out to the parking lot, and there was a car in the parking lot. My son claims that there was a lady sitting in that car whenever we pulled up, because there was a few people sitting in their cars with their windows down. And I just kept telling him it has to be that guy's car. It has to be. Like, that's the only way he could have got here, and that's the only way that he could leave. But we drove by the car, and there was nobody in the car. I do remember it being there, and I do remember the windows being down, and I remember another car being like this, and its windows were down too, but I never saw who was in the car. He swears it was a lady, but like I said, we tried rationalizing everything, like over and over and over. The whole way home, we're just like, that was so weird. Like, what happened? Why? It was just why? Why this? Why that? Why did he make us feel so? Why did he make that sound? It just, we couldn't, it took us a while to like get over it, I guess. And my son's like, dude, that ruined that trail for me. I don't want to go on that trail anymore. And there's about 5 or 6 trails. So I was like, okay, well, we should just go on a different trail. If like, I don't want that guy to ruin this park for us, but like at the same time, maybe we shouldn't go on that trail. Like that doesn't seem like a fun trail if that guy's hanging out on it. So, yeah, that was bad. Like I've said before, I went on a podcast. I like processed it. I talked about it. Whether I thought I didn't even know what I thought it was. I just kept saying Men in Black because that's what he was wearing. And he just didn't feel like all human. It just didn't seem right. It seemed like once, because I didn't actually like, I side-eyed him, but I didn't actually like give him like my like direct attention the first time that he passed. But I felt like when my son acknowledged him, that's when he freaked out or whatever, and like was like, oh no, like they know they're on to me. Like that's kind of what it felt like. It was like, do whatever I can to make them extremely scared to run away so that they don't get anywhere near me. Like that's kind of what it felt like. And then, like I said, I got these winged creature pictures from another trail walk, and there was this lady,
like this off the same area.
Yeah, so it's the same park, it's just a different trail. Yeah.
Okay.
But when I was researching like people to like get connected with about that, like in my area, like in Kansas City or just in Missouri in general, I Googled this lady that someone recommended. Someone's like, you need to go to this lady. She's the one that can help you. And I'm just going to say this. I'm not going to say her name because she is a part of MUFON and she totally ghosted me, and that's fine. I don't care, but it's just funny that like all these other people are very interested in my stuff, but it seemed like MUFON of my state, who should be helping me, is not helping me. They actually like saw all my stuff and then like acted like they were interested and then never contacted me ever again, which I thought was kind of
weird. That's suspect.
it was a little weird. It was a little weird. Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought it was strange. I thought about going to the person above her and seeing if that lady was interested. Remember when I told you I tried to type out that huge long email and then it just pooped? That's what I was trying to get to the MUFON lady. Yeah, that lady. Which I thought was just kind of funny. But so anyway, so I researched this lady, and the first article that pops up when I type in this lady's name into Google is Creepy Bur Oak Woods Entity. And it's this article that this man wrote to this lady about his experience at Bur Oak Woods. And he had talked about how he went out there multiple times, would always be out there walking by himself. And one of the first things that he says is, do not go to Bur Oak Woods alone. Like, that's his message to everybody in Blue Springs. It's like, don't go there alone. So I'm like very intrigued, because I'm like, okay, this is the only article I can find of weird shit that's happened at this park that I can actually, like, I want to know who this guy is so I can tell him, like, you're not crazy. All those people who called you crazy, like, I know what you're experiencing, and I've experienced a lot of weird shit in this park. And I'm so sorry that those people, I had someone laugh at me today, part of the Missouri Bigfoot research people, they all laughed at me. And I'm like, you know what? That's cool. I don't need you guys. I'm going to delete myself from your little group, and I'm going to delete my posts that I made that you guys laughed at me about, and I'm going to do my own thing. But besides the point, this guy tells a story about how he's out there in the woods by himself. He had binoculars. He had walked quite a ways, and he said he walked out into this clearing. And when he walked out into this clearing, there was this gentleman standing there, and the gentleman had his back towards him. And he said he didn't think anything too weird, except for when he kept walking towards the gentleman to approach the man. He never turned around to say hello. He never even acknowledged that there was somebody walking behind him. You know, I feel like a human instinct would just to be, oh, there, even if it's just something moving in there, an animal, a deer, a raccoon, like, you would turn around to acknowledge that somebody is making sounds through the brush behind you or whatever. So that's the first thing that he noticed that he said was weird, is that the gentleman didn't acknowledge him. So then he said once he took a few steps forward and like that happened, he said that this like instant feeling of dread came over him, and he didn't feel comfortable. And so he said he started to back up. He said he walked backwards the whole time, keeping his eye on the guy, because he said he didn't feel comfortable. I think he said he got about like 100 yards away from the guy, and he said he went to go put his binoculars up. And when he went to go put his binoculars up, he said it was almost as if the man knew that I was looking at him through my binoculars, because he said as soon as I got the binoculars focused on him, the man turned around and looked at me. And he said it was the most evil smile he'd ever seen on a human being's face ever. He said he had 2 bad knees, and he hightailed it out of there as fast as he could. And he said, but what was really weird is he said it was 20 below degree weather outside, and all this man had on was a short sleeve t-shirt. I think he said he described it as gray, not black, and a thin pair of slacks. And I was like, dude, that is almost describing like my experience to a T. Like, we didn't acknowledge him, but when we like did acknowledge him, you know, that's when he does something weird. He was doing the opposite of what he should be doing. He shouldn't be going to the park when it's closing at dark. That just is so, that to me, that was just odd. I just thought that was odd. Like this guy said, he's not wearing weather appropriate clothing. Like, this guy's, whatever this thing is out there. And me and possibly other people have seen it. But I'm going to tell you right now, people don't tell their stories because people laugh at them and call them crazy. And I'm so glad that I'm at a point in my life where I don't care about that. I don't care about what people say about me, what people say about my experiences, because they're my experiences for me to go through, for my soul to ascend, not for you to use to validate your life or whatever it is that you're going through. It's just like so crazy to me that like people can not just be supportive. Like, so many people are not going to tell their story, and so many people are going to, for lack of better terms, harm themselves because no one wants to listen. And that's just so sad, because it was like, it hurt my feelings when those people laughed at me today, but at the same time, it was like, dude, I don't need that type of negativity or like support. Like, I have people in the cryptid community on Instagram that have supported me 10 million times more than like people who think they know everything, basically.
Yeah. It's it's very clicky,
Yeah.
is what I'm starting to
Yeah.
notice with
I think the
the
UFO
especially the
community is
big
a lot worse,
yeah,
but yeah.
UFO and Bigfoot. It's like strictly Bigfoot people that are like Bigfoot. The people that are Bigfoot is an animal, flesh and blood, nothing else. Like he's out
Yeah.
there physically. Where I think, like I stated earlier, I think Bigfoot's interdimensional. And these people don't want to hear that shit. And then the UFO people have a problem with Bigfoot being interdimensional because if Bigfoot's interdimensional, it kind of like they're like, well, what the hell? Like I don't know.
Yeah.
Regardless, um, they frown on any inner kind of thoughts of anything outside of that. And did you tell? Is this the story that you told, or that you got you laughed at, or?
No, I just like, so I have like that footprint that I got, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, I just want to see if anyone like has any like similar, like I know like all my research, I know like all their feet are different. They don't wear shoes. They have rugged terrain. Like it's just, I know there's like different foot castings and stuff like that. So like to me, it's just like just trying to like see if anyone else has anything similar. Like, because at first I'm like, that looks like a human foot. It looked like I don't want to say humanoid, but it looked like this like weird human that wasn't. I don't know how to explain it. But then like the more I research it, I realize, okay, well, Bigfoot isn't just one big huge foot that's like 18 inches long. Like there's little ones, there's adolescents, there's ones that maybe inbreeding, like 3-toed, 5-toed. Like, so I was just like really just trying to find more people who are interested in this if they thought they had any like thoughts on it, and like they just like kind of laughed at me about it, and I was like, okay, I'm so sorry for wasting your time. Delete and unjoin the group. That's what I did.
Well, I'm sorry that happened to you. That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I
I
think
feel like that's what happens. Like nobody wants to, either nobody like wants to hear it, or they just don't like, they don't care. But it just sucks when it's like that's like the whole point of your page, and you're gonna like put somebody down who's like just trying to like reach out to help. I don't know. It just seemed really like, but I get it. And I've like experienced like there's this lady that came out with like a paranormal group, and she's a biologist, and she was really interested in all my stuff because she goes, as being a biologist like my whole life, and I'm older, she's like, it was really hard for me to get to the interdimensional part of things. And she's like, and I'm on that like, like that side now. She's like, it was really, really hard for me to get to that point because like just how I was raised, and just everything being logical and science and all that stuff. And so it was really cool to like hear her and how she developed. She's like, you remind me so much of me when I was your age, like, and she's like, and you're way further along with like accepting and being open to things than I was. And I thought that was really cool because she's been doing this for like a really long time. She was really interested in the winged creature and like the grass pattern that I found that I think was probably an impression from the creature. I do think that they are like flesh and blood, but I also, like you said, I think somehow they're coming in and out of here. Like people are like, oh, it's probably a sandhill crane, and it's like, okay, I've watched 1,000 fucking videos on sandhill cranes, and it wasn't a sandhill crane. I will tell you that much. Those things don't ever land. This thing was flapping its wings in a matter of 3 seconds a bunch of times. So it's like, I've been doing so much research, like, and just in silence and just trying my best because, like, I'm really nervous. But Wednesday, Tobias, he was on the Unsolved Mysteries episode just recently that just came out.
The Mothman guy.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to him on Wednesday. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah,
So I'm like, dude, I just want answers, or not even necessarily answers, but just like get my evidence to the right people so they can analyze. There's videos of people that have been analyzed for hundreds of hours by experts, and it's just a weird, like just a bird, like a known bird. Like my stuff that I have, people could spend as many hours as they want. Like, tell me, I just want you to tell me. I can tell you a million things that it's not. I know it's not a bug. I know it's not a bird. I know it's not, I don't know. People are just saying the most random things. A flying squirrel. It is not a flying squirrel. Where's its tail? Tell me where the tail's at, and why it has such large flapping wings.
Break free from the ordinary and check out a podcast with thought-shattering concepts that will reshape the way you interpret the world.
We are the Swerve Podcast, and our mission is very simple. Each episode, we research and discuss topics that swerve off the mainstream path in an attempt to understand everything in the universe, one obscure topic at a time.
Whether you're into forgotten history, cutting-edge science, strange frontiers of the unknown, or just need a good laugh in an uncensored way, the Swerve Podcast has you covered.
Listen to the Swerve Podcast today on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other major platforms.
It looks like a dinosaur, but then it also looks like a bat, and it's so confusing.
Yeah. If you don't mind walking us through that experience, and do you have the picture handy by chance that you could send to me while you're telling the story?
Yeah, I have it under my favorites.
Because I'd love to freaking check that out for sure.
This guy, what's this guy? The snarly Yow? Do you know who that is?
I think so.
Yeah, he said no one can tell me what these things are. He's like, if you see one of those footprints, get a cast of it next time. I've been just like trying to reach out to, I mean, anybody who's a researcher. I just want to hear everybody's opinion.
Yeah.
Like, what you just want, like a picture of it? Because I can just send you a picture.
Yeah, I'll just take a picture, see what we're looking at.
Because that's the one that's out at Burr Oaks, but then this is a weird one too. This is the one the second one that I sent you is from Trenton, Missouri. That one's really creepy. I don't like that one. It just looks not right. And then when its wings are together, that's what really freaks me out because
whoa. So this is the second picture is the same flying thing, or
no. I've caught in 3-wing creatures that no one can tell me what it is. The first one is the bat looking one that everyone's like obsessed with, but the one below it, okay, and then the one that I just sent you, that's when its wings are together, bro. Look at that. Tell me that's not weird. It looks so robotic.
That looks humongous from the distance.
And I'm
that you're at.
That one really creepy. So what happened was, I'll tell the story about how I got the first one, but
okay.
Once I found that one, then I was like, dude, I wonder if I have more. And I did. I just went back in my phone and I looked at all my live photos. And there was one when I went to go visit my grandma, and it's like this weird bird connection thing that I have. But like my great grandma, she died in the same like hospital as I did, like 2 weeks after I was born. Like once she knew I was here and like I was safe, like she passed. And my mom was really close to her, but she spent some time. I can't wait to tell all these stories, but I have so many. But she stayed in an asylum for quite a while, I think a couple times. And no one can really tell us what it was for, but I think it was for voices. And anyways, she had a really strong bird connection. And I've just had it my whole life, but I didn't know that she did. And till one time my grandma told me I saw this huge hawk flying with this like snake in its talons, and it like flew over my car one time, and I was like, dude, what the fuck? And I called my grandma. I was like, I don't know why I need to call you and tell you, but like I feel like your mom wanted me to call and tell you this. And she's like, well, you don't know this, but like my mom, your great grandma, was an avid bird watcher, and she actually tracked birds for the Audubon Bird Society. And like she told the Audubon Bird Society like what birds were like in her area. And like she has notebooks that my mom has right now, because unfortunately my grandma has stage 6 dementia and she's like in a care facility, so she can't tell these stories anymore. But my grandpa gave my mom all these notebooks, these spiral notebooks, and it's every single time she saw a bird, she wrote down 5:53 a.m. saw a chickadee, whatever it was. She logged all these things. So my plan is to go back and look and see if there's anything strange that maybe she just never told anybody. but maybe she
Yeah.
wrote down stuff like that, you know? So I've always had this weird bird connection. So when I saw that I had captured the other one, it was the first time I never got it, but it was on my way to see my grandma, which I thought was kind of weird. But when I realized that I had this winged creature in the picture, I had it on one side, and I was so obsessed that I had this winged creature that I didn't realize that there was actually two in the picture, and one's flying away and one was flying in front of our vehicle because I'm driving in a car and I'm taking a picture of this cornfield with the windows down. And it just, in that 1 to 3 seconds that I take this live photo, I managed to catch those two huge, and I don't know what they are. They creep me out more than the bat does, honestly. And I'm kind of glad that those aren't at Baroque Woods, because those really freak me out because they're so fast you can't see them. Like in a blink of an eye, you cannot, they're gone. Like my mom, I showed my mom. I was really hesitant on showing my mom because she doesn't like this stuff. And I just said, hey, I think you would have remembered this, but like I showed her and I said, this flew across us on the way to see grandma like a really long time ago. Do you remember that? And she was like, I don't think she liked it. She was a little upset, but she was just like, no, I think I would have remembered that. And I'm like, yeah, I think I would have remembered seeing that too. So it's weird. And I encourage people to take pictures with live photo, especially if you're like out in nature, because it's just, that's how I got these. Like, I'm glad that you talk about how it mentally affects people, because I feel like the story that I'm about to tell you has a lot to do with, like, I think why I'm not as traumatized as other people who see these type of things, because I actually didn't physically see it with my own eyes. I just took a picture of it and just happened to capture it instead of actually seeing it. Because I know a lot of people who, like, especially experiencing Mothman, they say once they like look into their eyes, like they are mentally like not okay. And that's kind of what I told Shane Oren. Like, I think I got the good end of the deal. Like, I captured the evidence and I have it. You know, these people have stories and they have trauma, and nobody believes them because they have no evidence. They just have their story, and they're, you know, and they're so torn because they don't even want to. You know, that one kid on Unsolved Mysteries was like, my dad just laughed at me, and like I didn't want to tell anybody. Like, you know, my own dad laughed at me. It's like, if your family's not going to accept it, then like why would you even want to tell anybody else about it?
Absolutely, yeah.
So the Men in Black experience happened on the one trail, and then that took us off that trail, and then we went to another trail, which led us to the creaking door sounds that we heard and the monkey sounds. It didn't really like freak us out, and I don't think that I don't want to say that we didn't go back, but I just feel like because we had other experiences happen on another trail, that's what led us to that one. So like we had, like I said, the creaking door sounds and the monkey sounds, and then it became Mother's Day soon after that, and we went out there and we found a new trail. And the only reason why I didn't know about it is because it's not actually marked on the like the maps. It's called an access trail. It's an unnamed trail. They say they do a lot of like seasonal burning out there, so I'm assuming that's probably why they don't encourage people to go on it as much. But it's at the very front of the park. So like there's a little tiny parking lot and like the main entrance sign, and you have to go behind the sign, and you go through all these trees. It's beautiful. It's like a huge hot spot for photographers that go there, and they take like pregnancy pictures, wedding pictures, whatever it is. It's just a really beautiful place to go. But I didn't know there was a trail back there. I honestly just thought it was that part until my son was like, look, there's a trail. I was like, oh, sweet. So we went one day. I think it was just me and my 3 younger kids. I don't even think Xavier was with us. And that's when we found the footprint. My daughters are always looking at tracks, like deer tracks, raccoon tracks, any kind of tracks. I'm always looking for footprints. So we're always looking at the ground together. And my daughter was the one that found the footprint. And I just remember my daughter saying, but where did they go? And I said, where did who go? And she was like, the person who was running out here. And I was like, what? And like, I'm behind, because they always walk ahead of me, you know, that I don't ever have them behind me. So I'm like, what are you talking about running? And in my head, I'm thinking, okay, the person has no shoes on out here. And it had rained a couple days before, I think. So it was really muddy out. And sure enough, there was one footprint in the middle of the trail, and there was no other footprints around it. And that struck me as odd just to begin with, because I thought, okay, yeah, she's right. Where did they go? And if they were running really fast, like surely there was another like footprint that would have been messed up or something that kept continuing to go, because like I've said before, it didn't go this way. It was going with us on the trail. So it looked like they were running with us. And that's the whole reason why we thought they were running, because where the big toe, it doesn't even look like they have other toes, but it looks like there was another toe next to the big toe, because when the impression happened, mud comes between the big toe and whatever was next to the big toe. It was pretty tall. And then it was so deep, but with the picture, I couldn't really get how deep it was, just with the dry picture. So when I went back, when we caught the winged creature, when I went back with my son on that trail, just me and him, it had rained that day, like an hour before we went to the trail. It was thunderstorm, like super bad. It was like lightning, thundering, crazy rain. And so when we went back on the trail, it's like, I'm taking another picture of that because I know there's water in it. And it was, you could tell like how deep it was because of the water that was in this footprint. So I took another picture of it. I wish I would have had casting material, and I will work on that, people, because that's what everyone keeps telling me. Did you get a cast? I'm like, no, I'm new with this. Didn't have my casting suitcase. I'm so sorry. But anyways, I'm just trying my best here. Okay, guys. So the footprint really intrigued me. I had to keep going. I had to know what was beyond this, or what this was. I've been also doing a lot of weird research on this limestone quarry that's 80 acres underground that people are telling me they're still hearing machinery sounds under the ground. I think it's somehow connected to Burr Oak Woods. I don't know what it is. I know there's a lot of politics in it, but it is so creepy. Like, yes, the Air Force, or the Whiteman Air Force Base close is super sus, but the underground quarry that this man has literally like made his own school. It's an unaccredited school, by the way, not a good one. It's not highly recommended by most people across America. Just alleged abuse and like cult activity. It's crazy. There's a whole Reddit dedicated to this man, and there's a whole page of like cult awareness, I think is what the website was called. A whole article on this guy and just the years. I mean, this is going on since the 80s, I think. But anyways, it's been pretty crazy. So we're on this trail with the footprint. It was still there. I was so happy it was still there because I could get the picture with the water. But we keep going on this trail, and like I said, we'd not been to this part of the park before. It was a new trail for us, so I didn't know what to expect. But we just like kept going. And when we went, there's this huge tree that was next to this big open field of grass, and the grass was really tall, like super overgrown. Because I just know that they don't parts of that park that aren't like well visited, they don't like tend to as much. So there's a lot of overgrownness there. And in this particular part of the park, I could tell that there was this huge area of grass that had been like, it looked like an impression, like something had laid down in it. And I've seen that a bunch of times around this park. When I took the paranormal ladies out there, we found like, they look like circles, like perfect circles where the grass literally just twirls into a perfect circle, and it's just a circle in the grass. And they'll be like all over the place, which is really weird. It almost looks like if like an orb of light just was like, wow, and then like came back up. That's the only way I can describe it, because I can't understand how it's being made. And that's what the lady said. Yeah. I don't know how that would have even like happened. She was really interested though, because I told her, I was like, girl, I've been seeing weird stuff out here. But my son's always like, you are so obsessed with all this weird stuff, and it's not always something weird. It's not always Bigfoot. And I'm like, I know that, buddy, but like, you just have to understand, like, something has to be making these impressions in the grass. It's just not just coming out of nowhere. And you could tell the whole entire field was up. There was nothing that I felt like that the storm could have done that would have made that specific impression. And if you see the impression, you would understand like what I saw and like how I looked at it. But from where I was standing away from it, I could just tell it looked weird. It looked like there was like two wings. Like that was the first thing that I noticed right off the bat. I was like, that looks like two wings. That's so weird. my son was already in it because there was some more parts that lay down, but the way I can describe it, it looked like this bird or creature came down from that tree and like almost like it crawled to that like specific area, but it looked like it had been like riff-raffing around in the grass a little bit because it wasn't the impression that I saw. It was more like just like inconsistent with how it was being laid down. But then you could tell that eventually it made it to that spot and its wings were laid down. You could tell where like the body was, you could tell where the head was, and it looks just like the picture. Then further analysis of it, I could see that there was puncture holes in the ground. Like it looked like a beak had been like making holes. I thought maybe it was like trying to like take off, like flying. Someone said maybe he was trying to eat bugs. Another person said maybe he was trying to lay eggs. And I was like totally open to all those things. So I thought that was really interesting because I didn't even know what it, like really, I didn't even notice the holes until like I became so obsessed with it. And I was just like, dude, this is great. Like that has to be an impression from that bird. So then I go to take a picture of it. And when I go to step on it, and I like emphasize this very much because I feel like whatever it was, maybe that's why I felt that way. Because hearing all these people talk about Mothman and like just how they have this like super sense of like dread and just like doesn't feel good. That's exactly how it felt when I stepped on the impression. And I've told people this before, like crop circles or certain crop circles that people like researchers like walk into and they say you have a really good feeling or you have a really bad feeling. It's like even or odd. I can't remember which one it is, but she said geometrically, they are a pattern of numbers, and like one of them is an even and one of them is an odd. And she just said one of them feels good and one of them doesn't. And that's exactly how it felt when I stepped on this. I was like, ooh, I should not have done that. I shouldn't be stepping on this. Like I knew instantly I made a bad choice about stepping on it. But in my head, I was like, well, I'm already stepping on it, so got to take a picture of it. So I just stood up and I tried to stand at the base of it. You can like barely see the tips of my shoes in it. I wish I would have laid down on it, but I had a weird feeling and I didn't like it. But it was almost as if someone was making a snow angel. Like that's what it looked like. It looked like a person made a snow angel, but it wasn't a person that obviously made it. But that's the best way that I could describe how it looked. And that's why it caught my eye, because I'm like, that's huge. It's not the normal circle patterns that I normally see. So we couldn't figure out where the impression came from. So I'm standing there and I'm taking a picture of the field because it was beautiful. And we'd never been to that part of the park before. And my son finds another little sign that says trail keeps going this way. And they're really small. So if you're not paying attention, you wouldn't even notice that the trail keeps going that way. It almost looks like it just ends right there. And you'd be like, oh, well, it doesn't go any further. But so I'm taking pictures in this field and I just take 2 pictures, just click. And my son's like, come on, quit taking pictures. Let's go. I'm like, dude, okay, fine. So we go, because he really doesn't like me taking pictures of stuff all the time because I'm a photographer. So I'm just always like, I'm like this close to a mushroom. And he's like, could we please carry on with the trail? I'm like, but it's so cool. This mushroom's so cool. But anyway, so I don't even know that I've caught this creature. Like I have no idea that it's on my phone. And we just mosey about our business and we're just going. And like, the more I think about it, it's like, that's crazy. Like if there's multiple of those things out there and it was that big, like it appears to be human size, like whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's an average size human type winged creature. And I'm just thinking it could pick up an animal, like a very small animal for sure. It could probably pick up a kid if it wanted to. And that's been reported in Missouri, Thunderbirds, since the early 1800s. So I know that that's like out there and it's probably never gone away. Mothman's never gone away. People think, the bridge collapsed and it went away. People have been seeing this still and continue to see it to this day. Yeah. So I believe that if there's one of them out there, then there's probably more than one. So like I said, I had no idea that I had seen that thing or, that I had witnessed that it flew across us. But like I said, it flew so fast, I don't even know if we could see it. That's the whole thing that like freaks me out. It's like, are these things just flying around nonstop and we just can't see them because our eyes cannot process how fast their physical body can maneuver, I guess.
Yeah.
That's just weird. But the best part about it is like we continue to keep going on this trail, and when we're going on this trail, we find the creek, and it had rained, so the creek was just like flowing. It was amazing. We went and played in the creek, took our socks and shoes off, and that's when I was kind of talking earlier about like the mind speak thing or whatever. My son went a little bit too far down the creek, and I couldn't really see him very well, and I was getting like agitated with him. I'm like, dude, like, you know, I don't like that. Like, please come back. You know, I don't want you going any further. And he listened, but it took him a while for him to come back. And as I'm waiting for him to come back down the creek, I'm standing on this rock in the middle of the creek, and I'm not saying the right word, but like they just basically were like, nah. They said something really weird in my head or in my ear. And it was almost like they were saying, like, you like leave, like, please leave. I've described this before. Like, they make you like feel uncomfortable. If you don't listen to that, then they make a noise or they throw something at you. If you don't listen to that, then they show themselves, kind of thing. And I feel like that's kind of what it was. Like, we were at the park probably when we shouldn't have been. They were probably all hanging out, having a good time, thinking nobody was going to be out there. And then me and my son show up, and they're like, wow, we got to like scram. We got to get out of here. And I feel like that's kind of what happened in this situation. We came up on the bird or the bat or whatever the hell that thing is, and it didn't like that we were there. And I think when my son said, hey, stop taking pictures, it heard him and knew that he was walking in that direction. And I think that's when it flew away, because it was like, there's people over here. I need to get out of here. And so it did. It flew right over my head and like right across my vision in that huge field, and I never saw it. So I think we scared that away. And then when we kept continuing to go down the trail, after the creek, that's when we saw the turkey. And like I said, turkey are always there when we have our experience, or there's deer. And these particular turkey, there was 5 of them. And that was the first time we'd ever saw multiple. Usually it's just one, the guy Jerry that we love so much. But my son this particular time was so excited because he's like, oh my God, Mom, look, Jerry has a family. He has a wife and kids. And we're like, what? So I like pull out my phone, I start recording. And I was so excited because like anytime that we see nature out there, like we just get so excited because he's like, oh, people go to the zoo because they think that's connecting with nature. He's like, that's not connecting with nature. He's like, they need to go out to the Burr Oak woods and hang out with our friends. And I'm like, yeah, that was
smart kid.
Way better. Right. So we're really excited about seeing the turkey. And what they were doing was they were going down the creek or whatever, and they were getting away from us. They were running away from us. But it was weird. That's like, we never saw them when we were like, we walked past them and my son had turned to see them. I remember that specifically because then we had to walk a little bit of a ways. And that's when, and this is the coolest thing, I had this epiphany today. I had this realization because I wanted to look up what people described Momo the monster, which is the Missouri monster, which is what we call Bigfoot here. They call him Momo. Yeah. And I thought I need to look that up. Like I need to look up like how people described it, or like what is like a common thing. And I had this moment where I was like, oh my God, like that's the best way that I could have described it. But I couldn't, for myself, I couldn't do it in the moment because I just kept telling everybody it was like this big black mass. And the way people describe Momo is having a pumpkin head. Let me look up his name. But there's this cartoon character from the Looney Tunes, and this is the only way that I could describe him. Gossamer. He's like that red,
big hairy
red monster with the head, like the big. That's exactly how I would have described it, and that's how people describe Momo. And I didn't know that until today. Like I looked it up today, and he's described as having a pumpkin head, and that's exactly, like it's hard to tell, but like that's exactly. Oh gosh, you can't see it. But anyways, if you look him up, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But that's how I would have described him. He was so big at the top, but he was all black. I'm sure there's probably red ones too. But then it's just weird that Looney Tunes has this character, and that's the best way that I can describe him as how he looked. He just looks super massive at the top and just like a little bit more slender at the bottom. But like I said, we saw those turkey and we kept walking, and that's when this big, huge black thing was just standing in front of us. And it was almost like he was like, stop, please stop going forward. Like, we've told you enough. Like, you don't need to keep going. And we were like paralyzed. Like that's how I can describe it, as I was paralyzed. I couldn't move. I couldn't talk. Another way I've described it is it felt like sleep paralysis, like, but I was awake and I was standing. I just couldn't move. I could not do anything, and neither could my son. And what happened was, it's like it saw, I don't know if we scared it or like it didn't think that we were going to see it or something, but it ran down the creek, down the hill to the creek that we were just in. But we were like a little bit back. So when we had walked forward, the hill kept getting steeper and steeper and steeper. And the ladies at the paranormal group came back with me, and it was really steep. So whatever this thing was barreled down the creek hill, like to get to the creek. But that was the thing, is like when the noise stopped, that's when me and my son like came to. And like I said, it didn't continue to go up the hill. I couldn't hear it splashing in the creek. It was just as if the sound just disappeared. And I mean, I don't even know how, like, it scared us so bad. Like, it was so massive and it was just so close to us. Like, that's what was hard to even like process. And I just remember I said, what the fuck was that? Like, as soon as I got like a voice in me, and then my son just starts laughing because he was so nervous. He was just like, dude, I don't even know what that was. And I was like, okay, well, like we're getting out of here. And he goes, oh no. He goes, we got to see where this trail ends. And I was like, are you kidding me, dude? And it's like all my instincts and like all the things that were telling me like, don't do it. His was the complete opposite. He was like, I have to know it's at the end of this trail now. And I was like, dude, you're crazy. And so I recorded the whole time. Because I was like, well, if we're going to get attacked by a panther or a black bear or whatever this thing is that we just saw, I'm at least going to record it for somebody. What we did, we ended up going to the very end of the trail. I described this before, too, that we found like a nest type structure at the end of this limestone, like creek pit. And it looked like what I've seen where the people, like, it looks like a blind, like a deer blind type thing where you can like, you're in it and you can like see other things, but like those things can't see you. And it caught my eye. And so we walk up, I say, we need to go down there. Cause like you had to go down in the creek and then go back up the hill. And it was like on this big rock. And my son goes, wow. He's like, okay, this is kind of the first like nest thingy that you've talked about. That's like really convinced me. And I was like, well, what convinced you about it? And he's like, well, cause this one's like woven together. Like, it looks like somebody like wove it together to like make it. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I guess a person could have made it, but I think it's very interesting. And in that moment that we're talking about how it's woven, my son goes, oh my God, Mom, look. And we look up again, and there was like 4, it could have been 5, but it was like 3, 4, 5 white-tailed deer running away from the area that we were literally just at. Yeah. And so I've heard that Sasquatch can like shapeshift into white-tailed deer. I'm assuming they could shapeshift into anything, but people say that they do that because it is a more acceptable visual for humans to see animals and opposed to them, because we're going to be probably terrified of what they look like. But that's what they do to like make us feel more comfortable. Like one gentleman described how this one particular deer was like around his house and it looked different. And all of his family noticed it was different. And he said he eventually watched this thing like shapeshift, and not that he developed a relationship with this thing, and I'm not saying that that's what he did, but he eventually said that he like kind of made like a true, like he went out to the woods and he like he said that kept mind speaking to him, but he said he went out in the woods and he finally like, they had this like thing where they're like, he said that basically the Sasquatch were just making sure that they were going to be okay to live out there. Like that they were going to be okay with them, owning that land and living there and like coexist. Like that's what he said. He said, I just kept telling him this thing, like, I want to coexist with you. I want to live in the same area as you. Like, I'm not here to harm you or hurt you. Like, just please, you leave, I'll leave your family alone. You leave my family alone, kind of thing. And he said it started happening when he cut down these 3 large trees on his property. He said that's when the deer started coming around. And the way he described it was, he thought, I definitely think that they were there to make sure we were going to continue. He said the trees were going to fall on his house or something that he didn't want to, but he kind of had to or whatever. But that's when the Sasquatch experiences started happening for him. And he said he'd never experienced anything. I thought that was really neat. So I always think about those things when I'm out there. especially with like the whole Jerry the turkey thing. Like we've had this weird
Yeah.
relationship with a turkey, and you have to find your connection with nature, and like I think that's just like how it happens sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, Ron Moorhead, he talks about the Sierra Sounds guy. He's talking about I had him on the show. Man, it was a long time ago now.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Just
be
like a
100%
couple
honest
months
with
ago.
you. Before you tell the story, when I saw that you had Ron Moorhead on, I was like, why is this man even inviting me on? I was like, he's got that guy on here. I was like, I told Oren and Shane, I was like, yeah, Ron. They're like, we're gonna have Ron on ours too, and I was like, oh my god, I just want to shake that man's hand and tell him thank you so much for inspiring me to. He's a big reason why, like David Blias and like George Knapp and Ron Moore, like some of the most amazing like people who are just so like they just want to do good for this field, and I love that so much.
Yeah, they really did. I mean, Ron he started in the 70s, with the Sierra Sounds and shit, and he's just been continued his research and upping his game and stuff. But he was saying when I had him on that he went up to Alaska because these people were being accosted by Bigfoots, and he went up there, and essentially what they were doing were they were tearing up the land. And he was just like, you stop tearing up the land, you're gonna have more of a positive. Like he's like, these things want to interact with you. They don't want to interact with you. They want to preserve nature. And that's what happens is when you have a negative experience with one, it's because you're doing something to nature. Like there is a force in them that is protective. And, and the fact that we built so many fucking cities, they're like, stay the fuck away from men, like stay away from mankind kind of thing. But yeah, Ron was just like, as soon as I told them to, you know, cut the shit, essentially, they did, and then they stopped being accosted. So he's like, there's got to be something to that.
I completely agree. I've heard many stories about like logging, them like damming up rivers and flooding the train tracks that they were trying to bring in with the logging to do more logging. And like the guy was like, we never would have known about that clan of Sasquatch had they not ventured out there and like started tearing all them trees down basically.
Yeah. So, and then Aaron Deese from Small Town Monsters, when I was talking to him last week, we discussed what I think is a dogman encounter that I had a few years ago. He was telling me, so you got mining operations, you got national park, and then the third thing that kind of like intertwines is a displacement of people. So with that being said, do you know of like native tribes that were moved out of the area, or people that used to live there at some point in time that were basically removed so that they could make a national park? Do you know anything like that about that area?
Yeah, they said that it was like that they purchased it, but the part that I told you about, there was a gentleman who owned it. I can't remember his first name, but Walker was his last name, and he owned 2,000 acres. Now it's only 1,075 for the park, but there's still other land that's being used as like soccer fields and like recreational stuff. But in the very beginning of this area, in between a school and the soccer field, is this huge circle of trees where there's a graveyard, and it's the family, and it tells the story about the bushwhackers that came to free their slaves on their property, and then what happened was there was a gentleman who was a part of the Jayhawk, I think they're called Jayhawkers. He went and warned the guy or warned their family, and so they knew that they were coming to free their slaves, and so all those family members who lived at Burrow Woods knew they were coming and killed all the like I said, the bushwhackers that were coming to free their slaves. So that's out there. There's gold on the property. I do know that that Walker has buried out there. And then those homes that were on that property in the 1800s, I can send you because I'm just like obsessed with this place. But they took those homes and they deconstructed them and they rebuilt them at another place called Missouri Town 1855. And it's nothing but a bunch of old buildings from properties around Missouri that were put together, that are from different places, put together to make this small town where people go and reenact. It's at a different park in Blue Spring. We have a bunch of parks out here. It's just nothing but nature and lakes and whatnot. That's a man-made lake, but there's a park out there and weird shits happen out there. Like people go missing and then their bodies are found, and it's not it's very suspicious. I would say missing 411 type stuff, but I personally know someone who that was their family member, so I don't really like talking about it because I want her to have like peace and closure. But I definitely think that when you have to have a bobcat to get to the person's body because the brush is so thick, I think that seems a little suspicious. Like that a person could make it all the way out there, but people who are in a missing, like searching for a missing person can't get there, but that person got there. Like that just, anyways, but it's crazy out here. But so yeah, the more I research it, it's weird. So like I said, all those people lived on the property. I'm not exactly sure when the property was sold, but people actually lived out there. Like I said, he had 100 horses. He had like 30 slaves. He had basically his whole world was out here. I mean, 2,000 acres, that's a lot of property to have. And you can still see where the foundation of the houses are because the foundation is actually still out there. The well is still out there. And the limestone trail, the one that I'm telling you about where all the properties were at, that's the trail that I saw the guy on. And there's been also other weird stuff. Like one time all the windows were broken out of the cars in the parking lot at the end of the park. And no one can ever tell me for sure if anyone had anything stolen. But I think it would be kind of crazy that someone just goes around and just like bashes out all these people's windows. Like it would take an extensive amount of time, and you would have to hope that no one was going to come down and see you bashing out all these windows. But like, I don't remember who I told, but I was like, I feel like if I had gold on my property and I was a quote unquote ghost or energy that lived out there and I didn't want anybody out there, and now it's been turned into a park and people just walk out here all the time. Like, who's to say he's not out there trying to scare people away from that property?
Yeah. I mean, just like it being a park and you said there's an underground quarry and so that's mining. And you put all this stuff together, all you got these sightings and stuff, there's something to digging into the ground and then the government deciding that this park is going to be a national park. There's something out there.
Yeah, that's what I say.
That's what it says.
That's why I want to know how parks get made. And like, my son gets really upset. He's like, why can't I camp out there? Why aren't dogs allowed out there? Why aren't animals allowed out there?
Yeah.
And it says service dogs only. And I said, do you want to know why, buddy? Because service dogs listen. They listen to their owner. And other dogs won't. And they will find something. Or something will happen to them. Or whatever it is. They're protecting that somehow. They're protecting that.
Yeah. And then
I don't know how that gets established because he's upset. He's like, why can't we go out there past 8:00 at night? That doesn't make sense. Like, why is it that we can camp at this park over here, but at this park we have to leave at 8 and they lock the doors and nobody can come in? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it is a good question. I've always thought too, like the quarry that guy owns, it's a science and technology lab. That's what it's called. And he was allegedly going to turn Kansas City into a hydrogen city. And he built hydrogen cars. He has a hydrogen car in the quarry. There's a there's a waterfall inside this quarry. All kinds of crazy stuff. Most people only get to the front desk where they say it looks definitely cultish because they're all wearing the same outfits. They have these creepy smiles. Like I said, there's whole Reddit forum on this place, but Like kids have snuck in there and saw the kids like sleeping in the bunk beds. Like there's people living down there. It's like I said, most people say that you're like groomed for the first 10 days and then he like tells you how it's really going to be after about 10 days. And most people leave on the 10th day once they realize like how the place really is and how it's really ran. Someone also suggested that maybe because the hydrogen city and the hydrogen cars didn't take off, that maybe he started to get into hydrogen particles, and maybe trying to do something with like opening space-time portals. And maybe that's something that he's doing down there. He's never allowed anyone down there, and anyone he has allowed down there is on his agenda, and writes articles on his favor. But what I can tell you is that in the 80s, someone tried going down there for something called natural resources, where they go down and they survey every single underground facility that is like being like that is active, like that people are using as a facility. And I can't remember how many there is in the state of Missouri, but I researched it, and this guy did this whole like packet on it where he went to every single one that he could, and everyone that was active let them go in except for that gentleman. He was the only place that would not allow, and it says denied access to, and then it said owner said quarry is in good condition. Like that's what it says in the thing. But like people have been trying. Like I even called the school and I was like, hey, my son wants to know if he can go down there in the science and technology lab with the scientists. He wants to know what they're doing down there. And the guy was like, oh, haha, that's so funny. Maybe we could arrange that. And like in my head, I'm like, oh, okay. I was like, I'm kind of wondering if my son wanted to, take one for the team. But I'm like, dude, I want to know what's down there, man.
Yeah, I don't know if I would take that risk.
Right, I know. It's just crazy because like you could tell there's something weird. And the only reason why I know about it is because my friend told me about it. He lives in Minnesota, but he comes down here and we're photographer friends. And he goes, you know about that cave by your house? And I was like, wait, what? And he was like, yeah, that cave. And I was like, I don't know about any caves in Blue Springs. I've never heard of a cave in Blue Springs. And like, sure as shit, I look it up and I'm like, it's not a cave, it's quarry, and it's fucking huge. And then when I'm telling somebody at work about it, I'm like, yeah, I'm doing this really weird research, and there's like apparently there's this like cult church and this like underground quarry. And my like coworker looked at me and she's like, oh my God. She's like, I remember that. She's like, I know someone who knew someone who was a part of that cult. And I was like, whoa, what? And she was like, yeah. She's like, I swear, she's like, I forgot all about that place until you said the underground cave. And I was like, dude, okay, this is real. Yeah. It was pretty cool. It was like a good validation though, because I was like, man, all these people on Reddit kind of seem a little kooky, but I'm a little kooky, so
we're all a little kooky in our own ways, I think.
Right, I agree.
But I will say, have you ever heard of fox bats?
Heard of what?
A fox bat?
I think someone has said that, yes, before. As like
They're
for the winged creature.
Yeah, because well, I would say like that first picture, maybe, possibly, but at the same time, fox bats are indigenous to Malaysia, not fucking America. So it'd be really weird that it would be over here to begin with. But you never know what kind of freaking things people bring over here on these boats
Right.
and shit
And if
like
they brought it
that, you
over a
know?
long time ago and it's just been like living out here.
Yeah, and I mean, it eats berries, it eats small rodents and shit. It doesn't like bite people. It's a fox, but it's a bat. You know what I mean? And it's huge. It stands like 5 feet tall when it's
Like
so when
about,
it's
I mean,
hanging
that's
up
kind of
and
how
when
I
it
described it. I was like, it's about my size, and I'm about 5'3".
yeah.
Like if
Yeah,
I would have laid
there
down
you
in
go.
that little like impression, I thought it was like a weird, like if I had big huge wings and just made an impression. Skinwalker Ranch they said the best guess they could come up with was a ropin, which was like basically what you're just like a large bat.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah, that was
Man.
like it wasn't like the actual like the research. I mean, it was somebody who like runs their page, but they're like we checked it out, and like they're like that's the best guess that we could come up with. And I'm like, well, it's way better than a turkey vulture because that's what the Missouri Conservation told me. So
That
I'll take a rope
listen, that
over
is
that
not a
any day.
turkey vulture. We are run by turkey vultures. I see turkey vultures all the time. That friggin' picture is not a turkey vulture
I know.
wing.
That's what I
I'm
tried
sorry.
telling them. They like emailed me back, and I just said I would be more than happy to come in here and show you the live video of like how fast it flies. But then I was like, I don't even know why I'm like wasting my time, honestly.
Yeah,
And that's kind of
I
what
feel you on
everybody
that.
said. They're like, yeah,
I feel
they
you
just think
on
we need to
that.
run around.
Yeah. Well, we're approaching 2 hours. I'd love to have you on again to tell more stories if you have any more.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
Like a Mary
So,
Poppins bag of stories. So we can definitely do a part two.
all right, let's do that then. But I will ask, my favorite closing question while we're here is, are you finding fulfillment in your life with like researching and, hiking these trails with your kids and whatnot?
Oh my gosh, yeah, absolutely. I think it's um when I was a kid, I never had like a God influence in my life. Like my family just wasn't that wasn't something that it was a bunch of men made this book and it's to help people not be bad. And like that's all I was ever told.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had experiences in my life when I was like a kid where I asked God for something and I thought he didn't give it to me, but he actually did. It just wasn't in the way that I asked for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like during all of this, I found like God and like my spirituality and just like being more open to like us all being like one being instead of a bunch of individuals and just like I don't know, just like getting more in touch with like my spiritual side and like being in nature just really makes me happy. And that's kind of why my son was so upset that this stuff started happening because he was like, this is like ruining nature for me. And like I don't want that to like I was getting a little obsessed, but it was so hard not to because it was like I kept getting more stuff and I just couldn't understand like why it was happening to me and like why it was showing itself to me. So we like found a balance with it, and that's why I just like I try to encourage people to just go out because it happens when you just like at least expect it. Like honestly, like I just go out on trail walks and I just try to like just like be out there. Like don't be on your like we're always so disconnected from everything and like that's the biggest thing for me is like feeling connected with just like with God, I guess, and just like us and my kids because it's so hard when you have kids and they're just sucked onto their technology and then you see yourself doing it. So like
Yeah.
that's kind of really what like led to all this was like us disconnecting from all of that bullshit and like just going out in nature and like actually listening. Like I want to know what bird sounds are now. I want to know what different sounds are so that I can identify if I'm maybe in a potentially dangerous situation or not. But it's just like that's what we do. We just go out there and we listen and just like don't stop asking questions and don't stop exploring. Like I thought it was going to hinder us for a little bit because it was a little scary because I thought, wow, like this is kind of like scary. Like there's things out there that I can't see that are just literally among us. But then I have to think like God made all of this, so I have to just let it be and just like I feel so honored that I even captured these things. Like that's was really like keeping me going. Like I get it now. Like they talk about like that itch that you get like when you have an experience, it just like flips a switch and then you just like the door's open and I don't think it's ever going to close. So yeah, it's really helped me a lot. I love researching. That's all I do. I love hearing everybody's opinions, and even if they're like crazy, like the people out there trying to kill a Sasquatch because they want evidence, like those people are absolutely nuts. But like, I love listening to what they have to say about Sasquatch because they're not that their opinion matters, but it's like they have an opinion too, and they might say something that sparks something that makes me think about an experience that I had and how I can view it maybe differently.
Yeah. perspectives. We all come from different perspectives, you know, and we don't have the same life experiences, so we can't um we can't judge other people's opinions because we're not seeing life through their perspective. Essentially, that's what makes the world so fascinating, is the difference in opinions, the difference in beliefs, and the difference in life experiences. You know, we're unique, but yet we are still one. Um, we just once we start vibrating on the same level, I feel like things will be more cohesive. You know, like you talk about the fucking A. Why is it escaping my mind? I just had it in my mind. The
Collective consciousness.
collective consciousness. There we go. Why the fuck was that not coming out of my mouth?
It was in my brain, and I was just like, I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it, but I was trying to see if you could get it.
Oh my god, I hate it when I can't get. I
I
know what I
know.
want to say, but I can't. Fuck it. Oh man. But yeah, I feel like, you know, once we start connecting and we can get to that the collective consciousness, the vibration there raises, I feel like we'd be a lot more happier. But you know, we want to fight about, you know, who's here in America. We want to fight about who's president and who what, you know, designer freaking clothes this person has and what this person doesn't have, and
Right.
stuff like that. So um but yeah. Well, I'm super happy that you get to, you know, experience this stuff with your children. That's amazing. You know, I try and get out in nature with my kids. My kids don't have we haven't experienced anything all together. My kids have little experiences here in the house. I do think my house is haunted. But I think we got rid of it. If it was negative, whatever was negative is gone. So, but anywho, um, we'll put a pin in it for now, and then we'll come back. We'll reconvene on a later date, and we'll get some more stories out of you, um, and talk some more, because I've really enjoyed this chat with you, Alex, and I really appreciate you coming on tonight. It's been amazing. You're a really lovely person, and a wicked bright and warm light. And like I could probably talk to you for another 2 hours, but you know, I don't know if everybody listening is going to be like, oh, fuck, another 2 hours. Jesus Christ, this is a long
Right.
ass podcast.
The first podcast I ever did, I think it was 3 hours long, and it wasn't a cryptid one, but
Yeah.
I felt so bad. And then the guy was like, "Oh no, it's okay." And I'm like, I just didn't even realize that that was what was happening. The time it gone by so
Yeah.
fast.
I've had two episodes that were 3 hours, and um you know, a couple people have been like, you know, I really enjoyed what you're talking about, but like I don't have the time to listen to a 3 hour podcast. And I'm like,
Right.
well, listen to it in increments then, I guess. But so I try and keep them condensed down to an hour and a half to 2 hours. So, but
That makes sense.
yeah. But
Thank
if
you so
you,
much for what you said about me. Like, that was so kind, and I've really enjoyed
yeah, you're
talking to
welcome.
you too, very much.
Nice, nice. Well, I hope next time is just as enjoyable. So if you don't mind, one more time, just letting the people know where they can find you and check out your photography.
Yeah, sure. It's on Instagram, and it's ASHAE_photography. So it should read Shae_photography. And you can check out my pictures on there. Like I said, I post reels pretty much daily, unless I'm busy or something. But usually I'll post something, whether, like I said, it's funny, serious, informative, whatever it is. It's usually something weird or um, horror. I'm big into like horror and anything strange. So if you like any of that stuff, definitely come my way, because I got plenty of it for you.
Awesome. Well, guys, that is today's show. I hope you really enjoyed it, and I hope you go check out Alex's page on Instagram. Check out her photography. She does do an amazing job. I've looked through her page, and I like what I saw. I think she does a phenomenal job. So,
Thank
anyways,
you so
if
much.
you're welcome. If you guys enjoyed today's show, please like, follow, share, subscribe, leave a rating and review if you so choose to do so. You can leave a rating and review on the website where the weird ones are podcast.com. That's where you can also get the hot sauce and the merch, and you can see pictures of everybody who's gotten merch. So, with that being said, you guys know what to do. Alex, again, thank you for being on. Time is our greatest currency, and the fact that you took this time to spend with me means the absolute world to me. If I didn't have people like you to talk to, I'd just be talking to my damn self. And I don't know if that's would be as entertaining. I mean, I would do it. I just don't know if people would like to listen to that. So
I had
thanks
so
for
much
coming
fun.
on. And everybody, you know the drill. Question everything and stay weird.
Amen.
There we go. I was going to say, I can never find the frickin'
This concludes our broadcast day. Click.
Because in the end, none of us have very long on this earth. Life is fleeting. And if you're ever distressed, cast your eyes to the summer sky. When the stars are strung across the velvety night, and when a shooting star streaks through the blackness, turning night into day, make a wish.